And right now is Dr. Robert Young. And Robert?
Mark.
Hi, Robert. How you doing?
I'm fine, Mark. How are
So
you?
Robert's going to talk about, oh, here's Jill Dane. All right. So Robert's going to talk about a second thought concerning viruses, vaccines, and the viral theory. Learn the answers to some very important questions that will change your life and save your life and those who you love and care about. With the coolest shirt that matches his eyes, Dr. Robert Young.
Yeah, how did you know that?
I always know that.
Shy now.
Okay, go for it.
Anyway, it's wonderful to be here. A new day, a new life, and it's always wonderful to speak and to share. And I was thinking today, and for some reason I thought it was Sunday, but today is Saturday. And I was thinking about the word Sabbath, and the Sabbath, the day of rest. And of course, some of that for many of you is on Saturday, and for some of you it's on Sunday. And I've always defined the day of rest is to not necessarily stop doing something. It's just you doing something that is not part of your daily regimen. So your day of rest from your daily chores, your daily activities. Well, so here I am on Saturday, the Sabbath, doing something that I enjoy doing, and that's speaking at the New Life Expo. And I think many of you are probably in shock of what's happened in the last year. Could it have ever been predicted, or I mean, it seems like we're in a movie, or we're part of the movie, and in a way, it's very true. We are part of what is going on. And it has literally affected everybody's lives. And you've heard from so many different people. You've heard from Dr. Kaufman. You've heard from Dr. Judy Mikovits, who's a good friend, Carrie Cassidy. Sasha has interviewed me. I go back to June of 2019, where I had the opportunity in Bali, Indonesia, to be able to testify in front of the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, where I spoke and basically outlined, the future of what was going to happen, and talked about the effects of viruses. In fact, one of the presentations I did a year prior to that in Rome, Italy, was at the International Conference on Viruses and Vaccines. And there I presented my work on dismantling the viral theory. And the reason I say dismantling the viral theory, because I don't look at it as science. I look at it more as a religion. And the reason for that is because you can't prove or disprove the existence of what they're describing as a viral entity. And the word virus in Latin means poison. Of course, that makes perfect sense to me because having studied blood and biochemistry, microbiology, and having studied the various aspects of these theories, dating all the way back, to Pasteur, Antoine Béchamp, and even beyond that, and the basic theory between the germ model and the terrain model. And so I've been speaking about that now for close to 40 years. So this is not a subject that's new to me. In fact, one of the metaphors which most of you know me for is what I call the fishbowl metaphor. And that basically describes many things that are happening to our oceans and to our environment, is that, our internal body environment and our cells are only as healthy as the water in which they swim in. And I think most of you would agree that we are a body of water, and that our cells are swimming in a fluid. That fluid is called the interstitial fluids. Right now, you're looking at vascular fluids. Behind me, you see these black discs. This is a phase contrast microscopy picture under high magnification, showing healthy red blood cells. Red blood cells, when they're in their healthy state, are plump. They're even in color, even in shape, and even in size. And I really appreciate the words of Moses when he said, "For the life of all flesh is the blood." And I take that literally. Muhammad said, "Don't you understand that you were created out of one drop of blood?" And what happens when a sperm fertilizes an egg? A drop of blood appears, and from that one drop of blood, all other cells are created. So it is the blood, the most precious, the most uh, delicate organ of the human body, which does everything to maintain its integrity and its environment uh, at a delicate pH of 7.365. And any movement from zero point 0.2 movements can throw you into a state of, uh, of crisis. And that crisis could be experienced as lightheadedness, dizziness, muddled thinking. It could be a lot of different things. Dizziness. It could be cold hands. It could be cold feet, and the symptoms become more severe to where if your circulation is not appropriate, it can lead to oxygen deprivation or pathological blood coagulation, since the red blood cells need to be separate, need to be individual, need to be swimming in their own environment to be able to travel into the capillaries, particularly the pulmonary system, to relieve its waste and to pick up new alkalinity in the form of oxygen, particularly nascent oxygen that it can then deliver to the cells. That process shuts down when we end up with an environment that is basically 99.9% of the people that walk on this planet that are living in denial as it relates to the health of their blood, which determines the health of their body. So when we look at pathological blood coagulation, we actually see this type of environment, which is not which is abnormal, but is normal in relationship to what is being seen today. So pathological blood coagulation was one of the things that I studied for many years and wrote one of my dissertations, my doctorate for doctorate in science. Uh, and you can read this. You can read the abstract if you want to go to uh, drrobertyoung.com /blog. You can just put in the words pathological blood coagulation, or another word, DIC, which is an acronym for disseminated intravascular coagulation. And you can read my scientific paper that was later published a few years ago. But this is something that has been my passion for the last 4 decades. And I'm always happy to share it. And many people come from around the world to in a non-invasive way, to be able to look at the anatomy and the physiology of the blood, because we're one of the probably the only groups in the United States, other than what is being done at NASA, uh, and that is testing 100% of the extracellular fluids. And if you know what I'm stating here, extracellular fluids actually combine two fluids: the vascular fluids, which is the blood, and the interstitial fluids, which are the fluids that surround every cell of the human body. And it wasn't but just a couple of years ago that medical science announced here in the United States, because it was already a common fact outside of the United States. And when I first started my research and work and studies at the Enderlin Institute in Germany, studying under Dr. Marie Blecher, who was a protege of Dr. Gunther Enderlin. This is where, really set much of the foundation of and the direction of my work, because just saying something and actually then visualizing it and documenting it are two separate things. And so to be able to understand the basic physics of matter, that matter cannot be created nor can it be destroyed. It can only change its form. It can only change its purpose or its function. And that's really determined by the environment in which it's found in. And when we alter that environment, particularly the blood environment, we get alterations of the cells. And when we see alterations of the cells, we attach names to them. And this practice of naming things, and putting it into a nice little box, which really formulates, the beginnings of the science of virology, which dates back in the 19th century into the 20th century, where any type of filtrate that was filtering out bacteria or yeast or mold was called filterable bacteria. Filterable bacteria was just the fluids of whatever that bacteria was. It's kind of like an isolation or a separation and a purification, removing the bacteria from the fluid. And of course, the research showed that the fluid would kill, that they would inject that fluid into the body, and this would cause the symptoms associated with, or specific symptoms associated, which nomenclature then called a viral condition or bacterial condition. But up until about 1964, viruses were known as filterable bacteria. I mean, even the polio virus, which has never been isolated other than a fragment of what's perceived as the polio virus, has never been associated properly with the major contributing factors of the symptomologies, which really deal with the waste products or the toxins that get into our internal environments and compromise the cells, particularly the blood, which then equates out to other body cells, that polio then becomes a condition of acidity, just as Ebola becomes a condition of acidity that's brought on by chemical and both in micro and nano particulate biologicals and chemicals that are polluting the internal environment, causing changes, which then we end up with changes within our own anatomy, beginning with the blood. Now, most people don't know this, but blood is not made in the bone marrow. The blood is made in the bone marrow if you're starving to death. It's called reverse transformation. And what that means is when you're starving to death, you become the incredible shrinking person. What is happening is the body doesn't stop producing blood. It reverses its production from producing it in the primary site, which is in the crypts of the small intestine, where it biologically transforms our food into embryonic cells, and then into erythroblasts, and then into erythrocytes. But the primary site of blood production takes place in the small intestine. There is no digestion that takes place anywhere in the human body. I'm going to say that one more time. There is no digestive system in the human body. It flat out doesn't exist. That's a scientific theory and a scientific illusion. The stomach does not digest food. The small intestine does not digest the food. It's not its purpose nor its functionality. In fact, one of the reasons I wanted to talk today was I wanted to clear up this whole issue of immunity, because the whole theory of immunity is also a fraud. It does not represent what is happening when you have a microscope and you can actually view the show that's going on. And the bottom line is white blood cells provide no immunity whatsoever. They provide antioxidants to neutralize acidic waste, metabolic and dietary waste. They provide a janitorial service to pick up biologicals, that come from the fragments of cells that are breaking down, or from, particulates from the almond you just ate, or a piece of protein from the chicken you just ate. So these are things that uh, that are important to understand, that using enzymes and probiotics is detrimental to your health. And the reason I say that is because the only instrument in the human body to break down food is your teeth. Once you swallow the food, it stays within that same anatomical form until it is released through the bowels. So any food that's not in a liquid alkaline state at a pH of 8.4 is eliminated through the bowels. For example, if you were to take an almond and swallow it, you would later find that almond or that peanut or that cashew or that walnut completely whole coming out of the feces from the other end. The other thing would be the same thing with a corn being a high water content food, or a spinach leaf. If you eat the spinach leaf whole or the corn, you'll find that what goes in comes out the same way that it goes in. So what does the stomach actually do? The stomach's lining, particularly what are called the cover cells, provide a very important function. The main purpose of the stomach is to provide true immunity. And true immunity I will define as managing and maintaining the delicate pH balance of the internal fluids of the body, specifically the interstitium fluids. This is the organ that has just been defined just a couple of years ago and accepted as the largest organ of the body, which is no longer the skin. So the interstitial fluids, which makes up this organ that surrounds all the cells of the human body, in Germany, I learned it by name as the colloidal connective tissue of the shod, the scaffolding that contains the septic tanks or the fluids of metabolic waste from cellular waste to food waste to environmental toxins from the air we breathe to the food that we eat. If that comes into the blood, it is immediately pushed out into the septic tanks of the interstitial fluid held by this organ, which covers every cell of the human body. So 70 trillion plus cells are literally bathed in interstitial fluid, that fluid is protected by the stomach. Okay, so what does the stomach do? What the stomach does is it maintains the integrity of the biochemistry of the body fluids by producing a compound called sodium bicarbonate. Now, you can't produce sodium bicarbonate in isolation, but you need three ingredients. You need water, you need carbon dioxide, and you need salt. The worst thing you could ever take as advice from any naturopath or medical practitioner is to stop eating salts. Anyone that makes that suggestion doesn't understand how the human body works, doesn't understand the true cause of what causes hypertension or what causes disease. It's very important to understand that salt is a major contributor that the body needs in order to produce sodium bicarbonate, which maintains its delicate pH balance at 7.365 and raises the pH in the small intestine, which is an ideal pH of 8.4. Now, if you were to go home and measure your pH of your urine, which is a product of the interstitial fluids, most of you are going to measure between 5.5 to 6.5. So I can guarantee it. We've done this with millions of people all over the world. If your P is not at 8.4, then you're not in a state of regeneration or healing. If your pH is below 7.2, your stomach is not functioning and is not producing a substantial amount of alkalinity to keep the pH of the small intestine free of any probiotics, free of any bacteria. Those are just genetic matters that provide no foundational organization of stem cells. Stem cells are made out of four things: chlorophyll, oil, water, and salt. If you're missing those ingredients, you don't have the foundational elements to build the embryonic cells, to building the erythroblast that builds the erythrocytes. And these erythrocytes are made at 5 million per second. So if I was to take 100,000 people and test their blood, 999,000 of them would look like the picture in front of me. I may find one person that has normal, healthy blood. In fact, I probably won't find any of you that have anything close to normal. And the reason why is because we drink polluted water, we eat polluted foods, we breathe polluted air, we're exposed to electromagnetic pollution, and we've accepted as normal something that is totally abnormal. So if the blood is the most important organ, and the stomach is a major organ for improving alkalinity, and one of the number one causes of irritation and inflammation that people are constantly, from headaches to stomach aches, are all, or the origin is in the core. The origin is in the stomach, and secondarily in the core. So the origin winding this back, I call it the three B's, or the four B's, but it starts out with bowels, blood, brain, and body, the four B's. These four B's, if you have a body challenge and a brain challenge, you have a blood problem. And if you have a blood problem, you have a bowel problem. And if you have a bowel problem, I'm going to add one more B. You have a base problem. The base problem is you have an acidic lifestyle. Now, you can sit here and say, I have a good diet, but that's a perception, which is giving you a belief of what you think is healthy is not necessarily healthy. How can you prove what's healthy? The only way that you can prove that is by testing the biochemistry of 100% of the extracellular fluids, which include the vascular and
Hello, hello. What
Yes,
happened?
hello.
What happened?
Uh, Maybe he just got frozen. Maybe it's internet issue, Robert.
Apparently. Hey, Mark Becker, you in the room? Mark Becker? Mark Becker? Mark
Yeah, I'm
Becker?
here.
Okay, we got a little technical glitch.
See, who has that?
He's got some connection issues, so he probably has to log out and come back in.
Uh,
So you might want to entertain for a little bit.
okay, wait.
Do some yoga for us. Let's see the yogi man do his yogi stuff.
So everybody, so right now I think Robert has a little internet connection. You can go to the bottom of your screen. You can go into room 10, listen to Francis play music.
It's
Go to
beautiful.
room 2, go into the panel for now, the Strange Universe panel with Mitchell Rabin and Lori Spagna and Diana Brownstone and Gail Thackeray and Stephen Papayatek and Jill Dane. Or you can go into the psychic room. The psychic room is room number 3. And I'm sure there'll be some psychics there ready to give you a free reading. And that's what's happening.
Yeah, so in the meantime, where are you guys from? Why don't you put in the chat where you're coming from? I'm curious. How far is our reach? Are you from India? How far did this fair go? Australia? Fort Lauderdale? Let's see in the chat where everybody's from. New York. Is it still snowing in New York? Delray Beach.
Why don't, I mean, maybe for now we should put, I'm going to put everybody, can we
Why
put
don't you-
everybody in room 2 for now?
We can move them or you can play a video.
No, let's move them to room 2, everybody.
Okay, Vicky?
Vicky, can you move everybody in room 2?
Yeah, okay. Let me move.
So everybody, we're going to move you into the room 2.
And then when Robert comes back, we'll move you back in.
we'll come and make an announcement and bring you back out. Let's pay attention to see when he comes back in the room.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody get ready for the strange universe. I wish I was there. Oh, I want to go there.
Me too.
Somebody's got to stay here though. We can show some videos, Mark. Get ready to show some YouTube videos.
Yeah, but you know what? That doesn't really show so good, I don't think.
Yes, it does.
Oh, yeah?
Want me
Let's
to?
see what we got.
Show some of your speakers from YouTube.
That.
More snow comes tomorrow in New York. Oh my God, I think you guys just finished shoveling it out, didn't you? Yes, if you want to go to room 10 to hear the music, you can move yourself, go to the bottom of the screen, go to the breakout rooms, hit the button and it's going to pop up, and then join any room that you want right now. Just keep this going until Robert comes back. Sorry, everybody. So room number 2 is the panels.
Dr. Robert is here.
Robert is back. Okay, beautiful.
Hello, I'm Mark Becker.
Okay, Mark, we got it. He's back.
Anyway, sorry about the interruption there. I'm not sure what happened, other than I can speculate on what happened. But we're talking about true immunity. We're talking about the purpose of the stomach. We're talking about the 3 ingredients that the stomach needs in order to produce sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate is excreted by the salivary glands, by the lining of the stomach, to alkalize the food to prepare it for biological transformation at a pH of 8.4. But any solid food that's not in a liquid state at a pH 8.4 is waste to the body. So that's why we have solid feces. We're eliminating waste that cannot be biologically utilized by the most important, one of the most important organs of the body, second to, I guess, the stomach, and then the blood, and then the small intestine. The small intestine has a surface area of 7,200 square feet, and the appendages from that, which are the intestinal villi, is the root system of the body, and it's there in the core that embryonic cells are made. And so that food has to be in a liquid state. That's why I disagree, not fervently. I think it's a good idea, to schedule when you what you eat, when you eat, and what you eat. And but I believe in the principle of not fasting but feasting. And feasting is based on this principle that you can eat as much as you want, as often as you want, as long as it is alkalizing, as long as it's purified or juiced or liquefied or pureed, and you're doing things to raise the pH up to an 8.4. This is how you get healthy. Now, since a lot of my work has taken me to patients who have serious health challenges, we don't discriminate on symptomologies. If someone has a symptomology, regardless, it's my mindset that there's only one sickness and one disease, and that's the overacidification of blood and then tissues due to an inverted. Unlike the bad actors, unlike the Luciferians, an inversion of the truth. An inverted way of living, an inverted way of eating, drinking, breathing, thinking, feeling, and believing. All of these diseases are nothing more than symptoms or stages of the body's inability to remove its own waste product, i.e. influenza. Influenza is not a disease, folks. Get over it. Influenza, just as HIV is not a disease. Get over it. COVID's not a disease. These are symptoms that they're dealing with, treating them as if they were disease without accurately identifying the context of which these cells are breaking down in. You can only do that if you're running biochemical tests, i.e. back to a full body biochemical test of all the body fluids. So you're getting 100% of the information, not just part of the information, because what's happening in the interstitial fluids, where we may see hypercalcemia and bone loss, of the spinal column or the hips or the long bones, you'll see perfectly normal calcium levels in the blood. What's the point of getting a blood test if you don't have the other half, if you don't have 80% of the other information? It's a waste of time and money. The only time you would do this if you have a serious disease, and this is when we go to doctors, this is when we go to, when we're sick. That's the wrong time to go, folks. Prevention is the key to the treatment of diseases, and preventing is worth more than a treatment or a cure, because prevention is the cure. But you cannot know exactly where you are biochemically, functionally, anatomically, physiologically, unless you're testing for those in whole body way. You cannot just take a biopsy of something and then make a determination that you have a specific condition, a cancer. That's ludicrous. Cancer is not a disease of the tissues. Cancer is the disease of the fluids of the body, with the genesis of the interstitial fluids. But nobody's testing that. If you were to see the blood after vaccination, before vaccination, and after vaccination, you would say, wow, look what I just did to my body. All you did was create a biological test showing that you can poison yourself and hopefully not be injured seriously or dead. Other than that, it provides no immunity, because immunity is not provided by building up these so-called antibodies. Immunity is defined as managing and maintaining the delicate pH balance of the biochemistry of the body fluids. The white cells support that internal cleanliness, but they're not on the front line. The stomach's on the front line. The stomach is the organ that produces the salts, and the manager of that is the brain cells in the stems in the brain stem. Glial cells called astrocytes. There's a bundle of them, which is the control center of managing our biochemistry, managing our body temperature, managing pH. And these are directions if there's any neck injury, head bang injury, or environmental injury due to increased acidity that will disturb the effectiveness of this command center in the brainstem, this control bundle of astrocytes, brain cells that control all of these functions of the human organism. So the stomach gets its direction from the astrocytes, and the stomach produces sodium bicarbonate, and it gets that material from what you eat, what you drink. And if it can't get it from that, then it gets it from the blood. Carbon dioxide from the blood, it's present. 90% of carbon dioxide is used by the stomach to produce carbonate, NaHCO3. So you got H2O, you've got NaCl, you've got water, H2O, you've got NaCl, and then you've got carbon dioxide, CO2. When you combine those together, if you're looking at the math on this, the equation, NaClO2 plus H2O equals NaHCO3, which is sodium bicarbonate, plus HCl. So this is where we got off. We got off track in the 50s when the Germans decided, using the Warburg test, that the stomach was an orientation, perspiration, or respiration. They build up. Where do they build up? In the interstitial fluids. Can I measure that? Yes and no. No, your medical doctor didn't study that at medical school.
Robert, I'm going to interrupt, and because Joan Carra comes on, Robert's going to be in room 11. So Vicky, we're going to move Robert to room 11, and everyone else can go to room 11. And in 1 minute, we have Joan Carra, and Joan is going to be talking about, Joan's a medium. She's going to be talking about a celebration of life after death. So if you don't listen to Robert, you're going to end up in death, but she'll tell you about the life after the death.
Well, there's I believe in lives between lives. I have no problem with that. We are spiritual beings having a physical experience, not physical beings. Our time here on our time,
horrible one.
we have eternity lies. The death is an illusion. In fact, Alexis Carrel received a Nobel Prize in 1964 for eternal life.